No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Hey everyone, this is Chris with Hacking Your Leadership. On today's discussion on employee engagement, I want to talk about the influencers on the work decisions of employees because they have changed over time as employees have more access to websites like LinkedIn and Glassdoor, as it becomes more commonplace to talk about your work experience with your peers and your coworkers, as the kind of visibility to the employee experience becomes heightened across the board. And it has. It's trajected that way, probably for the last 25 years now, but it will continue to go that way. There'll be more transparency. There will be more expectation of, kind of shining light on the truth of how companies lead, how individual leaders lead, and it will arm employees with information that they will use to influence their work decisions. Currently, there are 4 things that influence the work decisions of employees, predominantly. And those 4 things are, number 1, their personal values system. Number 2, their personal impact on their clients or customers. Number 3, the avoidance of personal risk. And then number 4, the objectives of the organization with which they're working. And they are absolutely hierarchical, meaning if an employee is being asked to do something that is in line with the organizational objectives, but that thing does not allow them to avoid personal risk to themselves, they likely won't do it. They definitely won't do it if it doesn't align with their personal value system, or it hurts or negatively impacts their clients or customers. But again, each of these things rests on a hierarchy. And so if you're a leader of people, your responsibility is to figure out how to align the organizational objectives with all of these things so that they influence the decisions of the employees in a positive way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You just kind of kicked us off with talking about just the transparency around kind of work culture, work environments, and that type of thing. And I think what that allows then is for, those looking to build a career, make a career change, or start a career to have more of a sense of that, of like are these things, kind of boxes that I can check? Are these things that I can find out and do some research on? And it being more than, I think, what it used to be, which is like, does somebody that have a good job? And then can they vouch for you, to get a job at that same company? And then the reality is many times those 2 experiences would match. The person that had been there for a long time, that has been able to kind of move through the organization or move up the ranks to a degree and have a certain level of understanding of all the things from the company politics to just, how stuff gets done, to then vouching for somebody else to bring them into a good quote unquote company, but not having the same experience. And I think now with social media, now with a lot of the ability for people to research this stuff, you're getting a lot more of a kind of fair comparison and a better understanding of what exactly is somebody walking into. And I think that's helpful in the workforce, being able to really understand, is this a good fit for me personally?
Right. That's spot on. In a job market where it's really difficult to find employment, in a job market where there isn't this transparency, then the number of things that can influence a work decision of a person might be far fewer, right? So it's just organizational objectives and I don't want to lose my job, and that's it. And the kind of avoiding personal risk is kind of the first level of, am I willing to put myself at risk for the sake of the organization? And at a very basic level, it doesn't necessarily have to be safety. It could just be your job, right? You could be asked to do something that is in line with your organizational objectives, but the way that you're being asked to do it is in a way that might actually put your job at risk. And in those situations, the employee is less likely to do that now than they would have been, say, 50 years ago. Once you get to the point where you know that you're not being asked to do something that is personally risky to yourself, you come into this idea of what your impact is on clients and customers. And I would say that where I am in my career and my age and my generation and the things that I've seen as I went through my career, this is kind of where it started for me. I don't remember being in a situation where I had to really, contemplate personal risk versus organizational objectives. That might be more my father's generation that had to do that. But I absolutely worked on teams and with people where the shady business practices of what you will say to a customer or to a client in order to get them to sign on the dotted line. I have plenty of examples of that, of teams that I know of where this was asked of them, and the people who did it to the standpoint of where they were the best, they were celebrated. And they were celebrated by leaders who didn't want to look into the weeds of how they got there. They just liked the result. And so they celebrated those people. And then you were left with employees who had to think about their impact on clients and customers compared to what the organizational objectives were. I don't know many people who would continue to do that today. I think that is largely a thing of the past, although I'm sure it does happen in pockets. Where we're at now is for an individual employee to think about what their personal system of values is. And this is significantly more complicated for a lot of leaders because the personal value systems of 3 different employees on the same team might be different. The impact on customers and clients is probably the same. Personal risk, probably the same. This is where it becomes highly individualized. And so if you're a leader of people and you want to figure out how to make sure that organizational objectives align with the personal value systems of your employees, you need to figure out how to make that happen in a way that gets them bought into the business. So I want to talk about that, but first I'm going to give it to word for one of our sponsors. All right, so we're talking about how leaders can align organizational objectives with the personal value systems of their employees, even though there's going to be some differentiation from employee to employee on what is important to them. Have you encountered this, Lorenzo? What have you done to kind of make this happen?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think number one, through an interview process, you have to have questions and clarity around the values of the organization, the work that you're looking to get done, and finding out like why does that person want to be here, and what do they see as the alignment that they personally have with the company's organizations or the values, that type of thing. So I think that if you're just saying, I've got all these different people and how am I going to align them? If you don't have that as a part of your hiring process, that becomes very, very difficult, especially if the jobs or the roles that they have, and we've talked about this previously on the show, is like not touching the actual thing that might be the final product or the thing that's changing the world or whatever that might be. I think if you maybe have struggled with or haven't done the hiring in a way that you feel is going to kind of get you like a head start in that situation, then I think you have to spend the time and sweat equity of like getting to know the people and the teams and having leaders connect with people and talk about the objectives of the organization and what are we looking to accomplish and what is it about that maybe you that brings you excitement, or what is it about that motivates you. Like, it's going to have to be a lot of heavy lifting and dialogue and conversations to build the connection between the team and the objective if they haven't already signed up for that in the first place. Right.
I remember a podcast episode with Gary Vaynerchuk, who was the guest. And this is probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And I saved a quote from this podcast episode because I liked it, and I kind of keep it in my notes and reference back to it. He says that I know that other people have goals and wants and needs, and that my goals and wants and needs, even though it's my company, shouldn't come at their expense. It's my job as a leader to figure out how to provide for them and then figure out what's left for me to do what I do. That is the embodiment of what it means to align organizational objectives with the personal value systems of the employees. The employees have their goals and wants and needs. That's what's important to them. If you are asking them to do things that are not in spirit of those, let alone go against what those values are, but even things that do not help them along those paths, they're not going to be doing that work in a way that gets you the results you're looking for. And so how do you provide for them the things that they are looking for, their goals, their wants, and their needs? Because it is significantly more effective to have a team of people who it's your job to help them gain their wants and needs and accomplish their goals than it is for you to try to figure out how to solve the organizational objectives for every single one of your clients and your customers. You can't do that as a leader. What you have to do is help your employees accomplish their goals and get their wants and their needs, knowing and trusting that in turn, they're going to work as an army of people to accomplish the clients and customers' needs so that you don't have to. That's what leadership is. Trying to kind of force the round peg into the square hole of them doing it the way that you want it done, hoping that they're going to, mimic the things that you do. That doesn't work anymore. Solve their problems, help them accomplish their goals, and you'll be surprised what they will do for you as a team and as individuals. There really is no other way to do this anymore if you want to be able to trust that they're going to give their all, even if you're not watching them very closely. Thank you to our listeners for joining us today on this discussion on employee engagement. Please come back next Thursday for another one. Have a great day.